If you are thinking of becoming a lawyer and you are so sensitive to the thoughts of others that you sometimes require protection from them, you probably want to find a new line of work. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and this is Winston the Westie. Now, when I first read this story, it didn't come as anything of a surprise to me. This is just par for the course in the era in which we live, and I was going to do a video on it, but then I saw that Nick Rekieta did a video on it, and I wasn't going to do a video on it, but I said I have something insightful to add to the discussion. Now, the story, for those of you who may not know, is that one of Trump's impeachment defense attorneys has recently been canceled. That is David Shawn, who has been canceled because he lost something of a teaching gig that he had scheduled as a result of his defending Donald Trump in the second impeachment. Okay, hold on, you're a little bit in the way here. Let's sit on the chair here. And I'm gonna take my computer. I read the article. The news came as nothing of a surprise. We have seen what has happened to other of Trump's attorneys. Some of the law firms have been harassed. Some of the lawyers have been doxxed. Other lawyers who defended Trump have had threats of having their licenses revoked, complaints to the bar. We are living in a mad, mad world. We are living in a mad world where people are being punished for ideological reasons just for doing their jobs and doing essential jobs that the world needs, even if we happen to disagree with them ideologically. We are living in a world where professionals are actually being threatened and harassed and intimidated against representing certain individuals because they are unpopular individuals politically or ideologically at the time. And people don't seem to fully appreciate how dangerous a practice this actually is. This is actually something I discussed with Alan Dershowitz when I did a live stream with him. I asked him how he could defend certain people who I would not be able to defend, even if I recognized that they were entitled to a defense. And he quite literally bluntly said, well, then you shouldn't do it because you won't be good at it. But the world needs people to defend these people because even if they are unpopular people, they are entitled to representation.
Patty Hearst is an interesting one. Patty Hearst is a case I could have taken because I do think that she was more a victim than a...
Let me tell you, you'd never be a decent criminal defense lawyer. Sorry to tell you that. Because you don't pick and choose your cases. You can't be a good criminal defense lawyer if you like Patty Hearst and don't like O.J. Simpson. If you're going to be a criminal defense lawyer, you got to buy the whole hog. You got to be willing to defend anybody who's charged with a serious crime. My criteria is the more likely the person appears to be guilty, the more unpopular, the more he's hated, the more I'm going to take the case because you won't. And that's why I have to be a criminal defense lawyer. You should stick to doing YouTube and doing your legal work, your money legal work, because you would not be a criminal defense lawyer because you allow your own personal predilections to influence who your clients would be.
It is a core principle of our legal system that people are entitled to representation. The only problem is that in the practice of law in general, and this has only been exacerbated by social media, people have trouble distinguishing the beliefs of the attorney from the interests of the client that attorney is representing. People see an attorney representing the interests of their client and they automatically assume that they are somehow also representing their own interests. And Alan Dershowitz eloquently explained that sometimes an attorney will represent a client even if the interests of that client are diametrically opposed to the beliefs of that attorney because of a fundamental underlying respect for the system of law itself. But in the era of social media cancel culture where people have difficulty or unwillingness to dissociate the practice of a lawyer from that lawyer's personal beliefs, it is all too easy to go after the attorney themselves for clients they represent, and that is exactly what happened to David Shawn in this case. David Shawn, quote, canceled for representing Trump in impeachment trial. David Shawn said representing former President Donald Trump at his second impeachment trial turned him into the latest victim of cancel culture. The veteran Alabama attorney claimed an offer to teach a civil rights class at a law school was rescinded after he took the job to defend Trump. Quote, when this came up, I contacted the school to ask whether this would be an impediment, Shawn told Newsmax on Thursday, and was told, yes, it would be. That some faculty and students would feel uncomfortable to have me on campus if I were getting involved with this case, end quote. Now, first things first, and I may be wrong about this, but I strongly suspect I am not, people have to appreciate that David Shawn did not take this class teaching civil rights for the money. I may be wrong, but I strongly suspect David Shawn would earn more money at his standard hourly rate than teaching a civil rights class to a university. In my experience, I have seen that a lot of lawyers do like to give back to the community, and one of the ways they enjoy giving back to the community is by teaching classes to aspiring lawyers. So, full CMT disclaimer, that is to say cover my tushy disclaimer because I may be wrong, I strongly suspect that David Shawn was doing this more to give back to the community than to make money. And how does the university thank this veteran litigator who offered his time to come teach aspiring lawyers? They rescind the offer because of who he represents. represented in his practice. But more important than that, David Shawn was told that some faculty and students would be uncomfortable with him being on the campus given his involvement in the case. If there are some faculty and students that feel uncomfortable with him being on campus because of his involvement in the case, they do not belong on campus. I am not going to make any potentially offensive or insulting or demeaning comparisons between the practice of law and other university studies, but if someone wants to be a lawyer and they're going to feel uncomfortable with someone on campus because of their beliefs,
find a new thing to do in life.
That type of childishness might fly on campus, but it will not fly in the practice of law, and it certainly will not fly in a courtroom. Can you imagine getting in front of a judge and saying to the judge, I feel uncomfortable with that person in the courtroom because of who they've represented, because of what they think? The judge would laugh you out of the courtroom, and rightly so. And not only is the university catering to this type of ideological capricious sensitivity, they are actually encouraging it. This is exactly the wrong training for anybody who wants to be a lawyer, and anybody who requires this type of sensitive pampering should never become a lawyer in the first place. But I've got to tell you, as offensive as I found that portion of this article, what I found even more offensive was David Shawn's response to it. Shawn, who has 36 years of legal experience and says he loves being in the classroom, called that, quote, sad commentary, end quote. He didn't identify the law school in question. All right, that's not the offensive part. That is just David Shawn being a gentleman, trying not to embarrass the university or put them on blast, or trying to avoid further cancellation by identifying this university. It's the next paragraph that's the offensive paragraph. Quote,
but I also wouldn't want students to be uncomfortable,
end quote. He continued. Quote, what's changed is the concept of liberalism. You know, liberalism used to favor the marketplace of ideas. They would want to hear all sides of the story. Everyone has something to bring to the table. Not anymore, end quote. I can agree with a portion of what David Shawn just said right there, except for the part where he said he wouldn't want the students to be uncomfortable. You wouldn't want the students to be uncomfortable by your mere presence by virtue of the fact that you had the audacity of representing someone as awful as Donald Trump? Well, I'm sorry, I think that is actually part of the problem as well. If someone were to tell me that my presence would make them feel uncomfortable because of the things I've said on my YouTube channel, well, I'm sorry, I think I might actually go out of my way to do a lot more hanging around with that person. If the presence of ideological differences makes you feel uncomfortable, then you are the problem, not those ideological differences, and you need to expose yourself to those ideological differences to become sensitized to them and to make yourself a little bit more callous for what is actually out there in the real world. Because you want to know the reality of the practice of law. In the practice of law, you're going to come across a lot more offensive people than people who have represented a president. You are going to come across a lot more offensive ideologies than people who have different political beliefs than you. You are entering a practice where people are going to be defending actual criminals, blue-collar criminals and white-collar criminals. You're going to be in a practice where some lawyers are just plain. They are going to say offensive things. They're going to say shocking things. They're going to be very, very mean to you. And if you're going to need to recoil to a safe space, you are going to have a long practice, or I should say a very short practice, because you're not going to make it. This is what universities should be preparing students for. And if the university wants to be the coward and disinvite David Shawn, well, he should have the audacity to say, no, you need me there even more. If my presence is going to make faculty and students feel uncomfortable and you cater to those beliefs, well, you are training those students for failure. All right, and that is my angry rant of the day. If you like that rant and you like these videos, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds Winston. If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment, and I've created a new shirt of merch. It is called Confession Through Projection, so I think a lot of people out there are going to want it. Robert Barnes and I have a page on Locals. It is called vivabarneslaw.locals.com. I am on Rumble as well, but more important than any of that, take care of yourselves, check in on friends and family, do things that make you feel uncomfortable because it is good training for life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah.